So this is the toile I've cut out. I've cut out one straight side because I think that will be fine. Obviously it's shaped like this, so that's the hem which goes up, and then I guess that's the facing. I've just cut the basic panels out, so there are flaps which go, or the yoke which goes around the back, but I haven't cut it out for this. This is just purely just to check the fit on it. So it will overlap like this and obviously sit open. Now what I found was, I thought, like, the sleeves are quite loose, but I have found in previous coats I've overfitted the sleeves. So I want them nice and loose. I wasn't sure if they're too long though, so I might just check, because if they're bunched with a button, then I think that will be fine. So I need to double check the pattern because I haven't really read the details on that there. I did think it was sitting slightly funny. So what I've done on this one, on this shoulder, is that I have taken a little bit out of the shoulder, because I normally do a narrow shoulder adjustment, which is fine on a set-in sleeve, but as is a raglan sleeve, it's a, I don't know, it didn't seem that so straight, didn't seem as straightforward. But when I had a quick Google, I got a description of what to do based on a pattern I've done before, so I'd completely forgotten. And all it was, which seams it, this one here, the shoulder seam, it was from the Closet Core Patterns blog, I think it was, and it said just to shave a little bit off the seam on there, just to shorten it. I guess it takes it in. So I haven't done this one yet. I've done this one. I don't know if you can see much of a difference, but it does feel less bulky. So this one I've taken a little bit out, this one I haven't, and I feel like it's sort of, it's not stitching as nice. So I will change the actual pattern, make the adjustments to the paper bit. So I've got that adjustment made for the lining as well, and I will obviously do that on both. I think that should be fine though. And the length, this is the regular length, but there is a cropped one. So this has 2 buttons, or like 4 buttons. So we've got 2 lots. And the cropped one, I think, only has like 2 buttons instead of 4. So it only has sort of 1 layer of the buttons. It finishes like here. And I thought that's just a bit of a funny length on me. I think though that this is quite a good fit. I am wearing it with trousers rather than jeans, so I did wonder whether it would be a bit tight around my hips because of the length, but I think by the time it's taken up on the hem, it will sit at quite a nice length and just give me that extra room, because obviously wearing it with like a jumper, so there's plenty of room here. I just wasn't sure if around the hips it was going to be big enough. I might just have to double check that. But overall, I think, I'm just looking at my viewfinder as I'm talking to you, I think I'm going to keep with the size that I've cut out, and I will just double check because the sleeves are long. This is obviously the hem, so the sleeves are long, but like I said, if it bunches up and has a little button on it, then I don't want to shorten it anymore, because then it will just be too short, which I have done on a previous coat, and I shortened the sleeves, and I shouldn't have done. I regret it ever since. So this one, you know, they're not halfway up, so nothing's going to poke out the end of it, and I think overall it's quite a good size. There is like a storm flap that you can put on both sides or on one side. So I think I'm going to do one side, and then like the yoke flap thing around at the back, because they're the design features. And although it's more fiddly, it's a bit plain, and it doesn't really show off that it's a cropped trench coat, I think, like this. So this is the first stage, and then I'll film on the next bit. So I spent most of today, which is Sunday afternoon, cutting out, and so I've done the lining fabric and as well as the main fabric, and then I realised that one, I didn't have enough interfacing. I've managed to, I had scraps, so I managed to have enough for just interfacing the very bottom of the sleeve, but these collar pieces here I didn't, so I've had to go online and order some because I haven't got a shop local to me which has interfacing, and I want to get it done. Same time I realised that the navy thread that I've got was going to be too blue, so I have this chart here which I bought ages ago, and it's really handy. So it's a Gutermann thread chart, and so it has all the colours. So if you lay your, let me just grab it. So I've got my fabric here, and then you lay it against the colours. The lighting's not great in here, and then you can see the number and then know which one to order. I went online with Amazon and I found a really big spool of thread, so I've gone a slightly different shade of blue just so I could get that one, and then I might use it for top stitching because I don't think they have the blue that I want in a top stitching thread. So I might just see how I go. Oh, I folded that up wrong. See how I get on with just using regular thread and a longer stitch length. It might not show up. I'll just see how I get on. So I'm hoping that will be there tomorrow, but I am frazzled because there were so many pieces, and then also I realised that there was a piece, the back facing, I didn't have, so I had to go open up my document on my computer and reprint the back facing. So I then had all the pieces, so I could iron on the interfacing onto the last few pieces that I've got, but I might just wait until that's the job for tomorrow. I'm sitting on the creakiest chair, by the way. This is where I'm up to. I've cut everything out and I have put interfacing wherever it told me to put the interfacing. I don't know if it was stiff enough. It might be too lightweight, but it's what I could get. And so I have pieces. So I have pieces like this where I have stitched it together, and I'm trying to sew as much together as I can from the instructions and then press in one big pressing session. So that needs to be pressed open, and then it needs top stitching. And I wasn't sure what colour to go for because I don't have any specific top stitching thread, I just have my regular thread. And so I tried 2 different colours, and I think it's the faff of having to like change out between top stitching thread and then regular thread as I'm going along. I'm just going to stick with the normal thread, and I'm going to do probably a 3.5 or 3.4 stitch length as opposed to 2.4. So you will see it because the stitching will be slightly longer, but I don't want it to be too gimmicky, so I don't want it to be too much of a statement. As it's a blue jacket, I don't want a light blue thread, it might look a bit strange. I just want it to blend in, but I do want the details and everything to sit flat. So that is the next step at the minute. I've got as far as the instructions say to do some belt loops, but there was no pattern piece for that, so I need to figure out what dimensions they're doing because it's a little bit confusing, but that could just be the way I've read it in the instructions. And then I'm onto the welt pocket, and I've never done a welt pocket before, and so far, let me show you, this is the front piece. So I've done the dart, but I haven't pressed it because, like I said, I'm going to do the pressing all in one batch. And so I've got the interfacing at the bottom, and then it says to put interfacing here, and then I need to transfer, because obviously I can't see, there's a line which is from the pattern piece, that's the slit. Never done a welt pocket before, and then I have to transfer the marking to the front. And then I'm going to follow the instructions of what on earth I'm supposed to be doing. I've also stitched these bits, and I'm not really sure why. So this is the right side, and this is the right side. So I had to cut this, finish this seam, and just stitch it all the way along, all 4 sides onto here. And I've got 2 of them. I don't really know why. I don't know what happens with that. So there we go. So and I'm now looking at it thinking I've done the wrong side because I've got a raw edge down here, and I think that was supposed to be the finished edge, and I think I've sewn it on wrong because I think that should have been raw because that's going to be enclosed in a seam, and the overlocked side should have been on that one. It's only now I've got the camera out, I'm like, yeah, I think I've stitched that back to front. So I might somehow be really careful if I could just like hold the fabric back and perhaps see if I can somehow finish it even with a zigzag on my sewing machine, just so it doesn't fray out, because I can't be bothered to unpick the whole thing just to run it through the overlocker, but then I don't want it fraying everywhere. But yeah, so I have 2 of these. I have no idea why and if I've done them right or wrong or what they're for, so I'll keep you posted. I realised I slightly went a bit off centre with the interfacing where the pocket should be, so I'm just going to add on a little square of interface. I've done quite a bit of sewing this evening. I've procrastinated all day, mainly because of this bit here, which is a welt pocket. I've never done a welt pocket before, and I could not get my head around the instructions, but after lots of head scratching. It's not perfect, but you know, for first try, so there's lots of like the gubbins kind of thing behind it. And once I did the first one and figured out what to do, the second one went in really easily. So there we go. There is my first ever welt pocket. So that is the side. And then I've got the other one as well. And I haven't pressed, I did a bit of pressing around the pocket, but I haven't done a final press, and I still haven't pressed the dart. And I've sewn as much as I can today without top stitching. So my next thing will be, and I'd rather do it in daylight and just get all the pressing done, because I like to take my time with that to make sure I'm not leaving scorch marks or anything, and everything is completely flat. So then I can top stitch, and then I sort of construct things like the front yoke and then back yoke, bits and pieces like that, and do all the top stitching. So I've got pressing to do, then top stitching, and then I guess, because that's front and back, I guess it's onto sleeve work. I haven't looked that far ahead in the instructions. I'm just breaking it down little bit by little piece. I'm quite pleased with that. I don't have buttons yet. I haven't looked at what size I need, so that might be a stumbling block, but I thought I'd just get a little bit done tonight, and I'm quite happy with that. This is where I am at. So I have just put the sleeves in, and it includes and I've put so it attaches with the yoke, and everything has been top stitched, which I was putting off, but I've only used one row of top stitching, because then I found sometimes if you go a bit wonky, it's a bit obvious if you have two. So along here it's the top stitching, and then on the sleeves, the way you construct the sleeve, you then include like the tab, which I think, because it's really long, I think it must wrap round, and whether the button goes on the tab, I haven't read that far yet. So that's it. So the welt pockets have been done. So this is the like storm flap, I guess, or the yoke. So I've got the welt pocket here. I've only done one. The pattern does say you could do one on either side if you like, but I've done one at the front, and obviously I have then the flap at the back. And now I'm onto the collar. Oh, squeaky chair. So here is my collar, and then I've just got to put the collar stand on and then insert the collar, and that's where I'm at so far. It's really tricky to film every stage. One thing I would say is, though, as I've pressed, I have used a damp cloth and a tailor's ham, and then just pressed. So I haven't used steam on the iron, because I did a tailoring course of about a year ago, and they wouldn't let us use the steam on the steam iron. They said no, have a cloth. So run it under the tap, wring it out so it's a damp cloth, put that on the seam, and then just press the iron on. And I must say, it has given me a lot of flatter seams than I would have done had I got a steam iron, because I think you press and they said you can stretch the seam out. So I'm quite happy with the damp cloth and the tailor's ham, but I would say, because it's a raglan on the curve, obviously, tailor's ham is what has been really handy, rather than just because it's not flat. Okay, so big mistake. I've just realised that I've sewn the collar wrong. So this is obviously the inside of the collar, and I have sewn this side, but I should have gone along here. I've completely messed it up. I wondered why that wouldn't match with the collar stand, and I've pressed it all and everything. So I turned it over and pressed it, and I was like, oh, that's nice and flat. Look, I've got it wrong, because the collar stand it's the wrong shape. I think that I know I have got some spare fabric, so thankfully I've got enough to cut another collar, and then I need to sew this side, not this one. Oh, good job, I just noticed, and I've got spare fabric. Fit check. I have just sewn the facing on, and it sandwiches the collar in at the same time, so you don't have to put the collar and then faff around the facing, it's an all-in-one. I decided not to put a hanging loop in. So this is it. I obviously now need to press it. So these are obviously the sort of sleeve loopy things, and it also needs hemmed and other bits and pieces. That's the storm flap. I had a couple of times where it didn't quite catch the collar, or then the storm flap wasn't included, so I've had to unpick the collar in certain places about 3 times, but now I'm quite confident that there's no puckering and it has got everything nice and flat. But I need to give this a really good press before I start on the lining, which I think is the next stage. I'm leaving this here for tonight. I'm just going to let it hang because the lining was coming out lower than the hem. I have stitched it and unstitched it, so I'm going to let it drop. But I think I might, it doesn't look too bad now, but yeah, I might need to trim some off the hem and then put the final hem on itself. But I think I might need to just chop a bit off that bottom of the lining because it was poking out the bottom. I'm just going to let it hang because I think I don't know, the sleeves look a bit twisted, but I think I've just been staring at it too long today. This is where I'm up to so far. Several days have passed since I last filmed, and there's a reason for that. It's because I'm stuck on the instructions for the lining. I have sort of sewn and then unpicked about 3 times. So I've got the lining here, which goes up. But I just couldn't work out what the instructions were telling me because it's all in German. And so my daughter showed me how to do the Google Translate on the captions for the video. And even then they didn't really make sense. So I think I'm just going to have to try and figure it out myself and just maybe go slightly off piste. And then I noticed, this is going to be really silly, but there's like one pucker of a stitch and it's on the inside and no one's going to see, but it's annoying me. So I'm currently unpicking it to flatten that out. No one's going to see it, but I'll see it on the inside. And I did notice one puckered stitch on under the collar, and I thought, no, the collar will sit over it and no one will notice. But if I know there's imperfections in it, then I haven't done a good job. If I'm spending this much time doing something, I want it to look right. I still think the sleeves are too long, and the lining is popping out of the sleeves, so I need to kind of hitch it up a bit. And I might be putting some stitches in just to kind of hold the lining up further in place because I can't understand what the instructions are telling me to do. Yeah, so this is what I'm doing. So I'm unpicking and I'm going to hand stitch again and see if that works. And at the same time, as I've had it inside and out so many times, I'm probably going to just overlock the pockets just to reinforce those, and then put it the right way around again and see what it's like. And then I think I need to hitch those sort of sleeves up, perhaps with some extra. I already have on one of them anyway, done stitches from the top of the shoulder lining to the inside shoulder of the jacket. But I still feel like I need to put some blind stitches around the cuff, which obviously you can't see from here because it's all inside out. But I feel like I need to perhaps do some blind stitches to hold the cuff in place because it's sort of unfolding, and even if I haven't done the final press on it because I've been in and out with it all the time, I feel like I need to just have it pressed so it holds in place with a stitch, because I don't think an iron is just going to be enough. Feels like, I don't know whether the lining has overstretched because it's viscose and the more I've worked with it, it has stretched out, or what it is, but it just seems to be slightly too big for what the jacket is. It could just be me. So yeah, the lining has turned out to be the most tricky part of this jacket. Once I've done all that, then I can top stitch. This is top stitch rounds and the collar and the front, and then it's buttonhole. So I'm nearly finished. It's just those final touches, and I usually rush and I don't want it to be messed up at the final stage. So I will keep you posted in my next clip of where I'm up to. Moment of truth. I have overlocked the pockets. So they're all overlocked, and then I have done a blind stitch on the seam allowance of where the lining meets the jacket, and now I'm going to turn it inside out and hopefully it will be all sitting in where it should be. So now I just have to find where my opening is, which is somewhere along one of the sleeves, and I can't remember which sleeve it is. I think it must be this one. Aha, here we go. Oh, rats. Caught in a couple of places where it shouldn't have done. Here's the final jacket Now in the pattern it said that when you did the shoulder tabs just to stitch a button straight through, but I actually stitched the buttonhole, was although I'm not actually going to undo the button, I thought it would give more effect rather than so you can see a little bit of the buttonhole stitching there, but you don't have to actually do it. I would say that when I did the toile and I thought the sleeves might be a bit too long, I was right and I should have gone my instinct, because I found that's the one thing about this, that they are too long, and now I feel like I've got too much fabric. I mean, I have seen people, you know, the trend so you can scrunch it up. There's plenty of room, they're not too tight. I found when I've made previous jackets I have shortened the sleeves and then I've shortened them and it's been too much, but this one could have done with a bit of shortening. So if you have noticed that, I already know, but obviously it's been made and that's it. I've made little loops here because as you would have seen in the previous clip, these bits here, when I was taking the jacket off, were slipping off. So I was having to put my arm through the sleeve and then sort of wrestle those in. So by making some reload, well, I say reload roots, very small, which is a bit of a pain to turn inside out, but I got them and then I just hand stitched them down. That now keeps this band in place. So I feel it's all secure, it's not flopping about everywhere. So I would say yes, it's slightly too long on the sleeves, but it is what it is. Overall, I'm quite happy with it though. And I quite like the fact that I did the top stitching like I think I said previously, and I've only done one row of the top stitching. I haven't done double because I think if I'd gone wonky, it would have shown up, whereas now it just helps everything to sit nice and flat. And so I pressed everything with a damp cloth and my iron. I didn't use steam. And I didn't even use the clapper actually. This is a cotton, I think just a cotton twill that I bought. And then with this jacket here, you have two functional buttons. So I've got two buttonholes and then these buttons are decorative. So it looks double-breasted, but you don't actually have to undo, there we go. So you only actually, so when it's undone, you still have the two buttons on this side. It's quite a nice little feature. There is an option with this pattern to crop it even more, so you only have one button, so the jacket cuts off, but I thought that would just be too short for where I want the jacket to actually sit. So this way it covers, I've just got it with wide leg jeans and a t-shirt, and it just covers up the t-shirt and it fits me at quite a nice sort of angle without it being too long. I have a viscose lining, a viscose rayon lining, which I had I think it was 1.8 meters because it was the end of a roll. Didn't know what to do with it. I was going to make a top out of it and I was like, actually I make the perfect lining. I managed to get I have put a few stitches in on, I think it's on the other, I think it's on this side of the lining where it was dropping down a little bit. Yeah, you can see here, I've just sort of pinched it and put a few stitches in just to stop it dropping below, because I just couldn't completely figure out how I should have done the lining. And then I did find when I turned it inside out that it had caught upside down, so I had to unpick. So hopefully it won't all unravel and it all will stay the way it is now, but it's nice and flat on all the edges. So I'll just step back a bit, oh, wall in the way, so you can see. You don't have to put the like the storm flap, the yoke flap on. That is optional, but I thought that's part of the feature of the trench coat. So obviously you've got the straps here which kind of hold it in place. You've got the epaulet, is it called? And then you've got the double-breasted, and I think actually it would make a nice autumn but also spring jacket as well, so you will get quite a lot of wear out of it, because obviously there is no hood, so you can't wear it if it's raining, you need an umbrella. But because it's lined, just gives a little bit of extra warmth, but it's not like a big thick wintry coat. And our weather at the minute is all over the place. 1 minute it's 14 degrees, next minute I think it was 22 today. But this is quite a nice throw on, and it's big enough so you can put like a light thin jumper or cardigan on and have that layered on as well, or you could just wear it as I've got at the minute with just jeans, t-shirt, and then just like throw that on. So overall I would definitely recommend this pattern. I will link the pattern company down below in the description box, because she has some really nice designs, and there's a new one coming out which I saw which is very similar to a Suzanne blouse. So it is in like her pattern company is German, but this pattern that I bought was in English, so there are options. I don't know if all of them are translated into English, but they're really easy to follow on her picture instructions that she does, and there is a video tutorial for this sew along. Like I said, the only thing I stumbled on was the final hem, But yeah, I'm quite pleased. So Etsy patterns, which is where I discovered this one through Pinterest. I was on Pinterest, found this, it took me to Etsy, and it's a whole new pattern company. And look, I've taken this off, the straps haven't fallen off, so I've got those little belt loops in place. And so yes, remember to subscribe to my channel if you want to see what I'm making next.